Welcome to Act 2 You're On. Join us weekly at our studio roundtable as Rhonda
and Kate invite spectacular guests to weigh in on staying vibrant and healthy.
Launch your next great act with authenticity and purpose.
Summon your courage, superstar, and step into the limelight. So grab a coffee
or a martini
and let's set the stage for a grand entrance. It's Act 2.
You're on.
Greetings, friends, and welcome. Kate Levy here on a happy day in the Act 2 You're On studio because we're welcoming a friend into the spotlight today, Dr. Sharon Sharpe. And I have the great pleasure of podcasting with my dear friend and dynamic co-host.
Thank you, Kate. It's Rhonda Garvin-Conaway here. And we would be remiss if we did not share that we're joined by our very talented producer, Kathy Carswell.
Listeners, are you sick of walking around in pain? Maybe your injury has healed, but you still have a nagging sense of discomfort.
Yes.
Are you a golfer and your game is just off? Kathy Carswell, is your game off?
Sometimes.
Okay. And you are looking for something to give you a winning edge. Have you had to give up activities you love because those activities no longer feel good in your body, Kate Levy? Well, you have tuned into the right podcast because there is a chance not all those activities that you love are gone for good. And we have just the person to address some of the questions you might be having about daily ailments that are limiting your fun and sense of well-being. So let me tell you a little bit about our guest today. Dr. Sharon Sharpe is the owner of Achieve Therapeutics. She is a licensed athletic trainer, licensed massage therapist, doctorate in biomechanics from BU. It is Sharon's goal to provide care for individuals who have some sort of ongoing or recurring issue that keeps them from doing the activities they enjoy. Sharon has a vast toolkit of hands-on therapies, and I know because I have experienced some of them, and she is a healer. She has helped people for over 30 years in injury care, and she believes people do not have to live in pain. Amen. And wait until you hear about the groundbreaking work she's doing with golfers. And here's the thing about Achieve Therapeutics. It provides a new path to wellness and freedom of movement through myofascial release therapy and other treatments for day-to-day and sports-related health concerns. Their goal is to remove any stress or unnecessary tension and to make you feel relaxed and comfortable and able to resume and excel at the things you love to do. Welcome, Sharon.
Thank you, Kate. Thank you, Rhonda. Thank you, Kathy. Great to be here.
Well, we're delighted that you are here. And it is really great for us when we end up with a friend of the studio because we all know each other through the arts. And also, Sharon and I know each other from my various athletic ailments. No, and I am excited for people to kind of hear what you do and know that they don't have to live in pain.
Right.
So my first question to you, friend, what drew you to this kind of caretaking?
I am an athletic trainer, so I bring that set of skills along with me. And athletic training, for those who don't know, and not everybody does, we are the people who take care of athletes' injuries. So we're the ones who run out on the field when somebody goes down and gets them off, takes care of the immediate, then also gets them to the doctor if they need to, and does all the rehab. So we're from start to finish service. But I came to this through that route. I was an athlete in college. I was injured. So I came to understand, the need for the services of those people to take care of you. And so that's kind of where I chose my career path right from then on. And I worked at a couple different places. I spent most of my career at Wellesley College, which was wonderful. I went to get my doctorate. And because I thought I wanted to teach, and I taught for probably 5 years and realized that I really missed working with people and helping people and getting my hands on people. So I had to get a massage therapy license to do that because an athletic training license at the moment doesn't allow me to do that. So that's how I got here. Originally, I was like, well, I just want to be the athletic trainer to everybody who doesn't have one. So someone comes in, I can evaluate their injury, I can treat their injury, I can give them exercises to try to keep it from coming back. That's why I came to this.
So you had your own personal experience with pain, with an injury and the upset.
Oh, yeah.
Many people do, but they don't necessarily go into the field. So what was it about your experience that really lit a spark in you? I'm curious.
Well, I was always interested in the sciences and especially physiology. We were required to take one course and I actually took 3. So it just fit right into that human body. And that led me to my biomechanics degree as well. So yeah, it's just a curiosity about our bodies and what, the amazing things they can do and the amazing processes that happen so that we can do that.
And when Kate was reading your bio, I thought this person is a badass. So I'm thrilled that you're going to give us some wisdom today, because it is impressive what you've done to work with the human body. And clearly it is a passion. Something I've had many conversations with people about, and admittedly, I have not taken the action for myself, but I get excited about the topic, is how fascia affects the pain in our body when we have injuries. And I was hoping to keep it really general, and maybe you can shed a light on it for me a little bit more and get me to move into action so I actually do something about injuries I'm dealing with. And for those who are listening, because I think they might be carrying around similar things, whether you're in the first act of your life or act 2 or maybe even act 3.
Well, I do most of the work I do is with fascia. And the reason for that, the fascia is, if you think about looking at an anatomy chart, you see all the red is the muscles, and then there's this white stuff. That's fascia. Not only that, though, it makes a baggie around all our organs, around all our muscles, all our blood vessels. It surrounds everything, and it's all interconnected. So if you really, I saw a video that is kind of disgusting, but what they did was they took a cadaver and they actually took out the fascia, like the outer layer, in one piece. I mean, if you've ever seen Body Worlds, they have all the with the vessels, and this was just a sheet of fascia, and there are different layers and different thicknesses depending on where in the body it is, and it keeps our shape. Okay? It keeps everything in the right shape, and it has different tensions on it, so it's pulling in different directions, and it hopefully, if you haven't been injured, it pulls in exactly the right direction so that your body parts are in the best orientation to move. Then if you get injured, it's very sticky stuff, so if you don't move something for a while, it sticks together and it forms adhesions, and this limits your range of motion. And even though your injury heals, sometimes that stuck stuff just stays stuck, and it has to be released.
So it's not just me and my fascia.
It's not
isn't just dumb. I'm glad I have my fascia, but sometimes I feel like, why are you holding on? So then I have to go and have, somebody like Sharon.
That was the best explanation I've ever heard, actually, of what fascia is. That visual, very impressed. And I can see why you are a teacher.
Here's another visual for you, and this is the one I use in class. If you think of like Spider-Man's outfit, and because the fascia is all interconnected. So if I grab the shoulder of Spider-Man's outfit and yank on it, the whole outfit goes that way, not just the shoulder. You can have pain in your shoulder that's really the result of something that's happening in your hip or your knee or anywhere. All my treatments are full body treatments with a focus on the problem area. Sometimes the problem area isn't the problem.
Yes. It's so fascinating.
If you've got this problem and you have the injury and the fascia is doing what you described it to be doing, what can you do about it?
Well, there are lots of different techniques, and there are lots that I don't do, but I do a technique that I learned from a physical therapist who learned it from an osteopath, and he wouldn't give it a name because he didn't know if he was licensed to practice it. So his name was Dave, and my friends and I who learned it from him just called it Dave stuff. It's just a technique where you get a body part in a position, and you sort of balance it with your hands, and you hold it there, and you just wait. And sometimes it takes forever, sometimes it's pretty quick, but eventually the tissues will soften. It's kind of a craft, you have to figure out where you need to put it to get it to balance. That's the main technique I use.
And it's wild, because then you walk out of there and you're like, oh, this is what it feels like to not be in pain. So you started off as an athletic trainer. So you were working with athletes who were at their prime. So who's coming through the door of Achieve Therapeutics now? And also I have a second question as a follow-up, but I'll ask that one first.
I have a wide range of ages and activity levels. So I have one young man who is a hardcore, he weightlifts, he runs, he does all this stuff. And I have a woman who's in her 90s who has a hip problem and she just wants to be able to walk around her house. And I do treat younger kids sometimes, not very often, but they have to come in with their parent.
So my follow-up question was, how is Achieve Therapeutics a little bit different from other traditional providers?
Well, I'm different because number one, I'm looking for the cause. I'm looking for why do you have this problem or why does it keep coming back? And because you get hurt, you stop doing whatever you were doing and you feel better. But then as soon as you start doing it again, your pain comes back. So to me, there's a fascial restriction somewhere that's putting undue stress on whatever it is that's hurting. So I'm looking for that. I'm not necessarily looking solely at your shoulder if you have shoulder pain. I'm looking at your upper back, I'm looking at your ribs, I'm looking at your neck, and I'm looking at your hips because it could come from a restriction in any of those places. So I'm trying to solve that puzzle.
Yeah. Well, that's what it is, a puzzle, or you're super sleuthing it backwards. And I also appreciate that you're not looking just to have return clients who come to you forever. You're looking to help people figure out how to stay out of pain. And I feel like that is not every provider.
Well, it's not exactly a good business model.
Yeah, but you get referrals.
But it is very satisfying.
Yeah. Yep.
I had a person come to see me who was a friend, and she was going on vacation and had done something to her back. And she called on a Friday morning and she goes, "We're leaving tomorrow early in the morning. I need you to help me." So she came in and I treated her and she didn't feel so great. And I said, "Well, usually it's the next day if it's a back." And she sent me photos from her vacation. She was rock climbing, she was kayaking, she was biking. That to me was like, yes, that's why I do what I do. So you go from hardly able to stand to you can free up those tissues so that you can do the movement you want to do.
Yeah, that's got to be incredibly satisfying to be a real healer and to relieve people's pain. That's great life work.
Doesn't always work like that, but that was a nice experience.
Sharon, I understand that you work with many people who golf. Can you talk to us a little bit about that? Well,
during COVID, I took the opportunity to take a couple of courses on golf movement and golf fitness and golf medicine. And it's from the Titleist Performance Institute. So Titleist is the big golf company. They have amazing physical therapists and athletic trainers who work with professional golfers and all levels. And their course is about, there's a sort of 12 or 13 item screen that you can do on someone to see if they have the range of motion that they need to be a consistent golfer. What I do is I run through that screen and we find, okay, so these are the areas where you're having trouble. And then we do a quick videotape of your swing from the side and from the front. And you can see, they don't call them errors, we call them swing characteristics.
I like that.
Very compassionate.
Yes, well, you can have this characteristic and still be an awesome golfer. So they don't call them errors. So they match up, like you match up, here's your screen and these are the limitations you have. And this is what your swing looks like. And we can say that the reason this is happening in your swing is because you have this limitation in your motion. And then we can work on that. And I can give you a quick program to get started to correct some of those things. And then if you have pain, then there's a whole different screen, which I've been using since I learned it. I've been using it on everybody who walks in the door because it relates the pain to the capability to move. And it's really shown me the relationships like of the hip to the whole upper body, to the arm, to the hand. And it's really been an eye opener for me. I started out to do it so I could work with golfers, but I'm using that particular screen, which is called a selective functional movement assessment. And it's for anybody.
Well, we're getting vigorous head shakes from Kathy Carswell, who is a golfer. So she'll be making an appointment soon.
Come
I
see me.
I have to imagine golf. That's got to be tough on the body.
Actually, if you're swinging smoothly and without, it's not. It's really not.
Interesting.
If you are winding yourself up because you have restrictions, then it becomes more difficult or more, well, it is difficult. I mean, it's difficult to play well, but to do the act, just to go play, it's not really that hard on your body. I don't think.
I am so curious because you applied this training to any person that kind of goes across your threshold. Do you ever turn off what you know in public and social settings? Are you always doing like little assessments on how somebody walks or what's going on? I've always wondered that.
I it's funny because I'll be in the mall or someplace and I'll see somebody walking and I'm like, oh my God, they're not walking around on those feet, are you? Like, you need some insoles. Come to see me quickly.
And you have to restrain yourself from offering unsolicited advice.
No, I don't have to do that.
Besides the massage therapy and the fascial work, what other tools or strategies can you offer folks?
I do cupping, which is myofascial decompression. So if you've seen it, everybody's seen it. And it leaves circles on your body, which look like bruises, but they're not. It's just blood being brought to the surface. But what it does is it really helps me to loosen up fascia. If somebody's really stuck, throw a cup on there for 5 or 10 minutes, and it just pulls those stuck layers apart. So that's a tool I use. I do a technique called positional release, where you put the body in a position where the particular muscle you're targeting is at its most slack, and you wait for like 2 minutes and it will eventually relax. That's kind of a difficult one to do because people are like, well, what are we doing? Nothing's happening.
Yeah, that speaks to societally where we are.
They're like, just wait. So, but that's pretty cool when it actually happens and somebody just goes, oh my God, what just happened? I do some instrument assisted myofascial techniques, and that's just with a tool. It's a stainless steel tool, but you just kind of run it along the tissue. All these things are intended to free up fascia and release it.
And that cupping thing, people who don't know, it looks like a medieval torture. So was it actually created and discovered as a torture device? Or no, I know my daughter has it done. She's a collegiate athlete and she has it done all the time and swears by it. Who came up with that?
It's an ancient Chinese medicine technique. And in fact, when I took the class, they teach you, it's a glass cup and you light something on fire and stick it in. And that makes the air very thin. And then you stick it on the body. And that's how you do it. And I'm like, I'm not going to be holding torches in my office. So I have two kinds. I have a silicone kind that you just basically squeeze the air out of and let it go. And then I have a pump kind that you put it on and you pump the air out. But one of the techniques that I really like to do with it is once you have it on there for a little while, you can actually lift it and move it. So you can go like the whole length of a muscle that way.
That's extraordinary.
It feels great.
I think so. The three of us should just come in and she could just fix us all.
We'll have a party. You bring the snacks.
I know. Well, when you get into a certain decade in your life, that idea is now, who wants cake? That's what I want to do for my birthday. Write that down. That's what I'm expecting now.
But I am really curious because you brought up, what is cupping? There may be people who haven't heard of it or they've heard of it. And then the idea of it might be intimidating. Maybe the whole idea of any kind of medicine that isn't traditional can be intimidating. What would you say to those folks listening that have sort of one idea about the services you offer, how to maybe consider a different perspective about them or how this might help service them in feeling better?
The way I approach this, I'm an athletic trainer. So I come from a profession that is evidence-based. If I don't have evidence, then I'm not going to do it. And sometimes the evidence is I've done it on somebody or it's been done on me and I know it works. And maybe doesn't work for everybody. When I have somebody who's a little nervous, I just try to explain it. I said, here it is. I do it on myself. Here's what happens. And it's intended to separate layers that are stuck together. If it's at all uncomfortable, we can take it off. There's no side effects except that you get marks. And usually they go away in a day. Sometimes not, but usually they do. So I just try to explain, here's why I want to do it. Here's how long we'll have it on for. And this is what you can expect to feel. And if you feel anything that you don't like, then we'll go with a different plan, because I have lots of tools. If you don't like that one, we'll take out another one.
Well, and I have to imagine you have a great way of putting people at ease, because you are you're a gentle person, but you are so logic-based. Like you just explain it and you give them, they can give you feedback, or you can choose something else. That's got to be very empowering, especially if people are nervous. So we're coming to this part of our conversation that we love, that's called the golden nugget. So it's this little segment where we invite you to weigh in on, I don't know, what our listeners might need to know to be successful in their next great act, or at a point of transition or reinvention.
Well, one great point of reinvention for me was when I went to get my doctorate at age 45. And I was sort of thrown in with this young man, Dan, who was 22, and we were both in the same program doing the same thing. And we were just completely overwhelmed, the two of us, in the beginning. I remember we were walking down the street one time talking about it and how are we going to do this. And I said, you know what, Dan, people do this. We're smart people. We can do this. So that's kind of been my mantra of like, people do this. I can do this.
I am people.
That's right.
And I love that story because, we can be mentors to younger people, but boy, do we hear a lot of advice from people these days to have a younger mentor. To be in a class, for anybody who might be thinking about going back to school when you're 45 and getting your PhD, I wonder if you can speak to that for a moment and just say, was that really hard or?
Well, honestly, it was hard. And it was great to have Dan, because he had this unlimited supply of energy that I didn't have.
Right.
So he kind of dragged me along at times. I got my PhD because I was working at Wellesley College for 18 years, and I was just getting really tired of traveling in a van for 4 hours and standing out in the rain. And so I wanted to do something else, and I wanted to get a doctorate. And my father always wanted me to get a doctorate. He said, I don't know why you don't have a doctorate. So I'm like, well, I'm just going to see who has a program. And rather than, usually you get a PhD because you have this burning interest in something. And I'm like, okay, what's out here that I can get even mildly interested in enough to do a research project? And I found it extremely energizing just to be, and I miss it. I miss being because we'd have seminars. And there were probably 7 or 8 of us in one room for an office. So there were always all these really lively discussions. And I kind of miss that. But I learned so much. And I didn't know that I was going to learn that much, because I thought I knew quite a bit about the human body. Just in the first week, I was amazed. I would encourage anybody who has the opportunity and the stamina and the support system, because you definitely need the support system to go for it.
Yeah, that's great. Great advice.
It's a great story. I regrettably am the person today to remind us all that we're coming close to the end of our conversation. But before we do, Sharon, we are really interested in knowing what's going to come next for you. Is it more of the same, or tell us a little bit about your vision for yourself?
Probably more of the same. I'm starting to get into custom made insoles. So because, the base of support is critical. And if your base of support is mushy, you're going to have problems. Your knees and your shins, and your hips. I found a company that it's relatively simple. It's not in place of a podiatrist, but it really, for like 95% of people, it's a really nice orthotic, a nice insole that really will help. And I've had a few people that I've given that are pretty happy. So that's my next thing. And also my next thing is I want to play more golf.
Yay!
I want to play more golf. Yeah.
Have you had someone do the assessment on yourself?
I have not. I probably should.
Ooh. Well, you'll have to come back on and let us know how that goes.
And once you heal Kathy over there, you can take her out.
I can
go golfing with her.
Yeah, I took course was an online course, so we couldn't work on each other. COVID course.
I know. Well, thank you for joining us today. What a treat.
Yes.
I always learn something when I am in your presence.
Well,
thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you all.
Well, we're grateful for this conversation and this great, healing that you're giving to the world. It's good stuff for sure.
And the world needs to know how to be in touch with you. So with that in mind, when you go online, you can find Sharon and the work she's doing, achievetherapeutics.com. That's achievetherapeutics.com. And see what's happening with your golf, your feet, your fascia. She does it all. Very impressive.
Right,
Thanks,
thank
Sharon.
you. Thank you so much.
And of course, thank you to Kathy Carswell, our very talented producer, for making it all possible.
And so I think it's left to me to say, go forth, be brave, live well, and do good, because it's Act 2.
You're on.
Act 2 You're On was brought to you by Act 2 Share Our Stage. You can find us at a2yo.com and also on Facebook, Instagram, and LinkedIn.
Please download, listen, and subscribe wherever you find your podcast. You can support us using Patreon or buy us a coffee.
I do like coffee.
No, you don't need any more caffeine, Kate. Buy Us a Coffee is a platform that folks can use to support entrepreneurs and artists like us.
So we can keep providing resources for the doers and dreamers to find connection, purpose, and the skills needed to create a sustainable, fulfilling life to better serve the world. And also, so we can buy more coffee.
Oh, Kate, thanks for listening, everyone.